Salut les beaux gosses et les belles gosses, moi c'est Brian et aujourd'hui je vais vous parler des plus grosses erreurs que j'ai faites dans mon apprentissage du français pour que vous puissiez éviter de galérer autant que moi. For those of you who are really keen on learning French, make sure you stay until the end of the video because I have a really special announcement just for you. Alright, let's get into it. Starting off with my biggest regret, I spent way too much time studying for the DELF instead of actually getting meaningful input and output. The DELF, or DELF once you get into the higher levels, is the official French language certification for non-native speakers. And basically my thought process was, that piece of paper would be the ultimate proof that my time and effort studying French was going somewhere, that I was getting at least this good in French. Spoiler alert, it's not that simple, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Anyways, what I did was just download the sample papers you can find online and I just did them as practice exams over and over again. And this was really detrimental, especially for oral comprehension. First of all, the listening tests sound nothing like how French people actually speak in real life. Every single syllable is painfully enunciated, there's a lot of pausing and exaggerated pitch changes. It's basically just very proper written French, but in audio form. I mean, it is nice that they make it as easy as possible for non-native speakers to understand, but with my approach, all I did was just train myself to understand that specific kind of French, and not even at a very high level either. So what happened when I finally got to France was that I couldn't even understand what French people were saying to me half the time. This was the consequence of not exposing myself to everyday French, which is flatter, way faster, and full of contractions. For example, the phrase « Je ne sais pas ce que tu veux faire » would become « Je sais pas ce que tu veux faire ». « Il faut que j'y aille » would become more like « Faut que j'y aille ». See the difference? Like, I don't think there are many languages that have such a big gap between their written and spoken forms like French does, for sure. The best way to get good input like that, and something that I really regret not doing more of myself, is to just massively increase the time that you spend listening to conversational French, even if it means getting overwhelmed. Because oral comprehension is probably the hardest part for a beginner to grasp in French, but you just have to stick to it, even though it'll feel like absolute shit for the first few weeks. It doesn't have to be complicated though. Just find some French channels on YouTube or podcasts that you enjoy and just listen to them on your commute, when you're at the gym, or just doing chores at home. I'm currently learning Italian, and this is exactly what I do. I just pick an interesting video from channels such as Easy Italian, and I just watch it over and over again for like 2 days until I understand about 90% of it, and then I move on to another video and do the same thing. I'm not trying to exaggerate here, but it is insane how quickly my oral comprehension in Italian is progressing thanks to this alone. Yes, the learning curve for understanding spoken French is much steeper than for spoken Italian, but the same logic applies and you just have to stick to it every day no matter what. That's the key. One other way to do this that most experienced French learners and French people themselves would vouch for is to watch really well-written and authentic shows such as 10% or Lupin, just to name a few. Pretty much all the dialogue is exactly what you hear every day in France. I actually tried doing this myself not long after I started learning French, but I think I started a bit too early, like my level of oral comprehension just wasn't there yet, because all the new vocabulary was so overwhelming for me. Plus, I had to pause and rewind every 15 seconds or so just to look up words that I didn't know yet. Looking back, I'm very sure that it would have gotten much easier had I just stuck with it long enough, but at the time I just didn't have the willpower, so I gave up pretty quickly. So moral of the story is, either don't be like me, or start watching these shows only after you notice some level of improvement in your listening comprehension when it comes to conversational French. If you want to take it to the next level, something amazing that you should definitely try is to join French learning groups or French speaking meetups. In hindsight, this would have been the most effective method for me personally. I talked about this with Julia in a previous video, so if you're interested in hearing more about it, feel free to watch that video after this one. But basically, this is the best way to guarantee progress as long as you show up. You're already there, so you kind of have no choice but to apply yourself, and it's not like at home where you kind of have the option to, switch to another tab once you start getting overwhelmed watching something in French, for example. It's also less overwhelming because most people there are French learners just like yourself. They know what it's like, and they can also adjust the way that they're speaking French to kind of meet you where you are. And if at any point you get too lost in a conversation, you always have English to fall back on. And this can actually be so helpful in keeping the conversation flowing. I'll get more into this later with another example. Anyways, this is also just the best way to get good output without moving to France. And if you live in a mid-sized city, chances are you have access to resources like this. And if you do, please take full advantage of this because this will seriously accelerate your progress in French. Going back to my obsession with the DELF and why that was a bad idea, while you do need a B1 certificate if you want to study in French in France or if you want to apply for French nationality, I don't think there are any other aspects of life in France that will require you having a French certification. I don't know why I put so much effort getting a B1 and then a B2 certificate when I've never had to use them the entirety of my 3 years living in France. Most French people don't even know what the DELF is, and no employer is gonna care whether or not it shows up on your resume, as long as it says that you can speak French and you can back it up during an interview process. And that's all that matters really. This might just be my experience, but the crazy thing is, these certificates don't even reflect how fluent you actually are. I took the DELF at Alliance Française in New York, and I met many people just like myself that could barely hold a conversation in French. Most of us definitely bombed the speaking test for sure, and yet somehow, in the end, we still came out with a passing grade. This is just pure speculation on my part, but it just seems to me that, at least in the US, Alliance Française is extremely lax when it comes to the DELF, so levels A1 to B2. Like, they'll be passing you when they really shouldn't, and I feel like they do this because since the fees you pay to take the exam get higher with each level, it's like they want to keep you motivated enough to want to go through this progression. I don't have any proof though that this is actually the case, so again, this is just pure speculation, but I know for a fact that I should not have gotten my B1 and B2 certificates on my very first try. I guess my written French was good enough, but knowing what I know now, there was absolutely no reason to give me a passing grade for my speaking because, personally, I felt like I could only actually speak B2 level French an entire year after getting the certificate. Anyways, I guess all I'm trying to say here is, don't fool yourself into thinking that these certificates are a bulletproof measure of your progress. It's not a good indicator of how effective you are in a language in real life. It just shows that you're good enough at prepping for a specific test. One last thing I wish I spent way less time on is language exchange. Think of apps like HelloTalk, where you get to connect with people that speak your target language and are willing to help you learn it in exchange for you helping them with theirs. Before we get any deeper into this, I just want to put it out there that yes, this can be a very effective approach for language learning, but only if both you and your partner have at least an intermediate level in your target languages, which wasn't the case for me. What I did was spend 3 to 4 months exchanging with French people that wanted to learn English, and I ended up having 2 consistent partners that I would message and call pretty much every day. And I have no idea how we managed to make it last that long because every call we had ended up being kind of awkward. Our vocabularies in our target languages were so limited, and so what happened was that we couldn't even help each other find the right words because we couldn't even figure out what the other person was trying to express. There were a bunch of awkward silences while we used Google Translate and DeepL to, even be able to articulate the basics of what we were trying to say. Even when we asked each other to translate singular words, we still had to rely on translation software a lot. Overall, I did enjoy most of the conversations I had, and I even made a friend out of it that I actually got to meet up with and hang out with once I got to France. But what I set out to do was become fluent in French, and I didn't feel like I got much of that, if at all. On a similar note, many people use apps like HelloTalk and Tandem as dating apps more than anything. Not saying that friendship or romance developing naturally after some time practicing a language with someone is a bad thing at all, but that's not what happens most of the time. Imagine getting bombarded with dozens or even hundreds of people trying to flirt with you in the very first conversation, which is what pretty much every woman has to go through on these apps. Dude, the horror stories that I've heard, like there was this one girl that I talked to recently that told me how she blocked a dude who sent her a shirtless picture, and that same dude created another profile to then be able to send her the same picture again. Crazy shit like that. And women feed into this too because many of them end up not taking language learning as seriously as they thought they would, but they still stay on these apps because making friends is fun. So yeah, my take is that if you want to use apps like HelloTalk or Tandem, make sure you already have at least an intermediate level in your target language, meaning you can at least describe the words that you don't know in your target language without relying on translation software or going back to your native language. Also, make it really clear on your profile that you're looking for serious language partners only, and that should save you some time at least. If you're looking for some help getting started with your French learning journey, I've got some good news for you because I'm offering my very first French classes. Why learn French with me? Well, I'm a native English speaker that learned French as an adult with 0 prior exposure to any Romance languages, so chances are I've been exactly where you are. If you want to learn French with someone who knows what works and what doesn't, click the link below to book a free trial session with me. I'll be offering my first batch of students a special rate of $15 per session for the first 2 months, and if that sounds like a good deal to you, let's work together to help you become more fluent in French. If you're part of my French audience and you're still watching this, I'm also offering my very first English tutoring sessions at that same price, so feel free to sign up with the same link. Other than that, I hope you learned something meaningful from my experience. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, because I always love reading what you guys have to say. I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting some of you guys soon, and in any case, I'll be seeing you in the next video. Until next time, have a great rest of your day. Bye guys, love you.